Are there any on worksheet 4.6 that you need me to do for you? Serena? 1B. All right. Okay. All right, so 1B said, well, first of all, they tell us that we have 7 blue shirts. We have 5 yellow shirts. And we have 8 white shirts. Okay. And they tell us you pick two shirts from the closet, find the probability. All right. So we pick 2 shirts. 1B has us, we want to find the probability of picking a blue, then a yellow, and this is without replacing. Is this the one you're talking about? Okay. So this is what we are finding. So to do this, we're going to take the probability of picking a blue, and we're going to multiply it by the probability of picking a yellow. All right. Well, I first need to know the total number of shirts. So I believe I have 20 shirts. Everyone's taking these notes down. If you don't have it, if you're missing the homework, you're writing it down. If you didn't get it right, you're writing it down. All right, well, the probability of picking a blue. Well, I have 7 blue shirts out of 20. I'm not replacing. So what that means is, in my second pick, I only have 19 shirts to pick from. And I have 5 out of those 19 left are yellow. Hello? She's not in my room. I think she is in, I don't know where she is right now. She's Z. She's Z. Yep. Okay. Fine. All right. So now from here, I'm going to go ahead and divide out common factors. So 5 divides into itself once. 5 divides into 24 times. So that's all the common factors I can be dividing out here. So now my numerator has a 7. My denominator is going to be 4 times 19, which is 76. All right. It did not tell me we're going to leave that as a fraction. That is simplified, so that should be our answer. Does that help you? Awesome. What else can I do for you guys from 4.7? Blythe? 1H. All right. It's the same data, but H said I want the probability of picking a blue, and then a blue, and it says without replacing. Again, if you don't have this, you're writing this down right now. All right, so this is going to be the probability of a blue times the probability of a blue. All right, well, the probability of a blue is going to be 7 out of 20. Now, we assume we got what we wanted the first time. All right, so that means that my blue goes down by 1 and my total goes down by 1, because we're going to assume we got that blue. All right, so are you cool with that? That's the biggest mistake, and my guess is that's the mistake you may have made, is not decreasing both. All right, 2 divides into 6 3 times, 2 divides into 20 10 times. So we end up with 21 over 190. And I don't think 190 is divisible by 7. It's not divisible by 3, so I think we're simplified. What else can I do for you from that worksheet? How about 2 through 5 or 7 through 10? Chris, sit up. How about 2 through 5 or 7 through 10? You guys, you're going to see one of those again. So if you're not sure what to do, like on a test or a quiz, if you're not sure what to do, you need to ask. Ashton? Okay, would you like me to do it for you? Because I can't answer that unless I do the problem. Okay. So let's take a look at number 3. Number 3 said find the missing probability. All right. So they told us that the probability of B was 1/5. The probability of A and B is 2/13, and we want to find the probability of A. All right, the only way that you can do this is if you start with the formula. Chris, sit up. And if you don't have it done, you're fixing it, all of you. If you have it done, you're checking your work. You have to start with the probability formula when you're dealing with probability. It doesn't matter what you've been given. Just start with the formula. If you notice here, I'm not being given any data. So I don't know what are the number possible what we're choosing from. So if I think of the probability formula, probability of A and B is equal to probability of A times the probability of B. I have those. I just don't have A. So I can go ahead and just substitute in what I know. Well, the probability of A and B is 2/13. The probability of A, I don't know. The probability of B is 1/5. So I have 2/13 is equal to 1/5 times x. All right. How do I get rid of multiplication when my coefficient is a fraction? How do I get rid of that multiplication? Matthew? Excellent. So I'm going to multiply by 5/1. So my 1/5 and my 5/1 cancel each other out. So Ashton, you're looking at your work to see where you strayed off. Okay. So I have x equals, well, I can't divide out common factors here, so I'm just going to multiply this out. 5 times 2 is 10. 1 times 13 is simply 13. Okay, but what is the coefficient of my x? What does this say right here? So what is the coefficient of my x? The coefficient is what the x is being multiplied by. What is the coefficient of my x? So if you multiply both sides, so if you did this, Ashton, if you did this and you multiply both sides by this, by the 13/2, what you now have created is 1 is equal to 13/10x. How did you solve for x? Do you understand that that's what you did? So I just need you paying attention to your work and the goal that you have in mind. The goal is to get rid of that multiplication by 1/5. Not get rid of that 2/13. Does that make sense? So that happened because the variable term was on the right and not on the left. Okay. What else from 4.6? Yes. All right, let's take a look at 9. You guys, your test is Thursday, so I highly recommend that you are paying attention to all of these problems. Any one of these is a candidate for going on the test. All right, so number 9 said I have the probability of B is equal to 9/10. I also know the probability of A and B is 3/5. I want to find the probability of A. So Blythe, this is exactly the same thing. All right, so I always start with my formula. Probability of A and B is equal to probability of A times the probability of B. Blythe, what is the probability of A and B? So there's my 3/5 right there, equals. Well, I don't know the probability of A, which is x. I'm going to make that x. What is the probability of B? 9/10. So now I just solved that. So Blythe, how do I get rid of that multiplication by 9/10? Yep, multiply it by its reciprocal, which is 10/9. When I do that, my 9/10 and my 10/9 cancel each other out. I've got a 1x, which is what I wanted. My 5 divides out on the left side. 10 becomes a 2. The 3 divides out on the right side, on the left side. The 9 becomes a 3. So x is equal to 2/3. Chris, did you have that? Okay, then why aren't you writing it down? Colin, do you have that? Okay, I need you guys to stay up to your desk and pay attention to what we are doing, please. Blythe, does that help you? Yeah. Awesome. Yes. Tell me which one you want. 11. Let's take a look at 11. You guys, this is you studying for your test. So it's really important that you're paying attention to what we're doing here. You have a test on Thursday. Any one of these could be on it. All right, number 11 said a bag of green and yellow. You have a bag of green and yellow tiles. You pick 2 tiles without replacing the first one. The probability that the first tile is yellow, the probability that the second tile, both of the tiles are yellow. So they're doing essentially what we have in 7 through 10. This is a story problem for it. All right, so we have a bag of tiles. We have yellow and we have green. We are picking 2 tiles without replacing. Now, whether we have with replacing or without replacing, what we're doing now, because we don't know data of the number of green and number of yellow, we're not finding the probability using the data. We just have to go with the numbers, and we just have to go with the formula. The formula is the same whether it's replacement or not replacement. So in this one, we don't have to account for the replacing or the not replacing. We're just going to put the data in. All right. So they tell us the probability of picking the yellow first is 3/5. They tell us the probability of a yellow and then a yellow is 12/35. We want to know the probability of picking a yellow the second time. And again, I'm just using the same formula. Probability of yellow, then yellow, is equal to the probability of yellow times the probability of yellow. All right, well, I know the probability of picking yellow then a yellow. That's 12/35. I'm going to set that equal to 3/5 times x. So I would do exactly the same math. So from here, I'm going to multiply both sides by 5/3 because that's the reciprocal of my coefficient. I'm going to divide out some common factors here. This is 35. So 5 divides into itself once, divides into 35 7 times. 3 and 12 have a common factor of 3. I'm left with 4. So I end up with x is equal to 4/7. So probability of a yellow the second time is 4/7. Does that help you? And 12 would be similar. All right, you're welcome. How about page 230? All right, 230 was much more of a comprehensive of what we are going to be looking at on our test. Yes. Number what? Number 9. All right. All right, so if I take a look at number 9 says that we invest $500 for 3 years, and we receive interest of $60. What is the annual interest rate? All right, and if you remember, I is equal to P times R times T, and they gave you this. It's really important when you're given a formula, you know what everything stands for. I is the interest earned. P is the principal. R is our interest rate. And that's going to be in decimal form. And then T is your time. And this is going to be in years since it's an annual interest rate. So I'm just going to fill in this. So I have 60, because that's my interest earned, is equal to, well, I invested $500 for 3 years times my interest rate, which I don't know. And then you simplify from there. And that would give us our decimal form of our interest rate. Oh, okay. All right, get your notes out real quick. I want to go through a real quick summary of what's on your test without dropping the calculator. All right. So today is the 21st. This is our Chapter 4 test summary. Just going to go through this real quick. Come on, dude. All right, 4.1 was ratios and proportions. Here we looked at unit rates. We looked at writing ratios. We looked at our conversion factor work. Definitely go over that. You're definitely having a conversion factors problem. That was in this chapter. That was in 4.1, so I'd highly recommend you go back to that. Don't raise your hand right now, please, because I need to get through this. We're in chapter 4, aren't we? Are we in chapter 4? Yeah. Yeah. It's on here. We've had a homework quiz on it. This is chapter 4. Okay. We also were solving proportions. I would definitely look at page 185, example number 6. I would definitely take a look at that again. All right, and you're definitely getting a story problem. And that is going to be page 185, 186, no, 184, example number 5. I would look at that as kind of a guide on that. You're definitely going to get a story problem using proportions. So I'm trying to point out 2 things that are really important. So if you've already done your chapter review, I'd go back to these that I'm highlighting for you. I'd go back to your conversion factor work. I'd go back to story problems using proportions, etc. All right, 4.2. These were proportions and similar figures. All right, so we had, in this, we did have similar figures. We also had scales, and we had indirect measurements. I would definitely go back into those. .3 is proportions and percents. And then 4.4 are your percent equation. You are going to need to know how to do both types, but don't forget, you need your percent sentence. You're definitely getting a story problem from this. You're definitely getting a story problem from 4.3, 4.4. So I'd go back into there. I guess that's just 4.3. 4.4 is percent of change. So they put percent equation and the proportions in the same thing. All right, 4.4 was percent of change. Make sure you know the formulas for these. 4.4 is percent of change. All right, story problem. I take a look at that. 4.5 got us into probability. All right, and then 4.6 was compound probability. I'm sorry that we were not able to go more in depth with these, but you guys pretty much know what these are going to look like. All right, so if you already finished your chapter review, I would recommend you going back and practicing some of these story problems. Take this night to do that. I'm not assigning them, but you guys, this would be a good idea for you to go back through some of those. For those of you that did not finish your chapter review, it's due tomorrow. All right, check it. The answers are in the back of the book. You guys are good to go. Please clear your calculators before you